We are live now. It's been a long time since we've been live. I'd like to thank... Gotta get this straight. Okay. I'd like to thank Paul, as always, for hosting. I'd like to thank Yossi for the food. If you don't want to just be live and actually have the food next time you come to Paul's house. Okay.
Tastes better than it looks.
No, that's good, that's good. Right. Okay. Tonight, I want to speak about learning how to forgive. Let me start with the following question. How many of you know people that have fallen out really, really badly? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I think...
Who doesn't know someone?
Who doesn't know someone? Yeah, that's a better question.
Right.
Who doesn't?
Yeah,
You know? Okay, I'm a rabbi. I know hundreds of people. That's not fair. But but we all know people that have fallen out really, really badly. You know, and you sometimes think to yourself why do people fall out like that? So sometimes, okay, it's a huge deal, and sometimes it's been really, really big things, etc., etc. But sometimes it's just crazy. Who told me this story? I think Rabbi Herman told me this story. Which one of the Rabbanim told me this story? Rabbi Herman told me this story, and Rabbi Herman said. No, Rav Shmuel Goldberg. Sorry, that's what it was. I knew it was a Rav of the Higher Prestwich, but it wasn't Rabbi Herman, it was Rav Shmuel Goldberg. Rav Shmuel Goldberg told me the story, and he said, listen, there was a fellow that passed away, and I went to the funeral, and I met this fellow at the funeral. And I said to this guy, I said, who are you? He goes, I'm his brother. His brother, I didn't even know he had a brother. He goes, well, we haven't spoken for years. He goes, you haven't spoken for years? How many years is that? He said, 50. 50 years. Wow, that's a big fight. He goes, oh yeah, it was a big fight. He goes, wow, so what was the argument about? He goes, the argument was about, sheesh, I can't remember at the moment, but the argument was about, and that's basically how the story went. The guy was like, I don't remember. I really don't know what the argument was about. End of story, right? But you think about it, it's just a wacky story. It's a crazy thing to happen that you should have an argument with your own sibling, and very often there's no fight like a family fight, right? Have an argument with your own sibling for 50 years, and in the end of it, he dies, and you didn't make peace. And what? You don't even know what the argument was about? What a shame. What a shame to live like that. If you know what the argument about how bad could it have been? Oh, I remember it was terrible. Yeah, but you don't remember what it was. So it couldn't have been that terrible, right? Okay? That's the first thing to mention. So sometimes people, we get stuck in this rut. We get stuck in this kind of, I'm so upset with this fellow, and I'm never going to forgive him. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. And in the end of the day, it's silly. It's just stupid. And the other story, which is one of my favorite stories, I love, Rabbi Farchi tells this story. He says there was once a case of him speaking. He was in Birmingham, and he was talking to people, and he was telling them this story. Because it's always a joke, but this is the true story. The joke is that two people fell out, etc., and then he asked them why the one fell out with the other after he died. He said, I don't even remember. So he told that story in Birmingham, and one guy started walking up. One guy started making his way. This old man from the back of the shul is making his way to the front. And he's like, uh-oh, here comes trouble. Yeah, because this guy's holding his way, and he's just slowly making his way to the front. And finally he gets to the front. He says, yes, sir, can I help you? And the guy says, I've been in an argument with my brother for 55 years. 55 years is a long time. He goes, oh, yes, it's a long time. But I know exactly why we're in an argument. I know why we're fighting. He goes, oh, well, okay, enlighten us, I guess. He says, you know what? When my mother died, I said at the time to this fellow, to my brother, I said to him, I don't need anything from the house. There's one thing I want. There's only one thing that I need. The candlesticks. Mommy's candlesticks, which she got from Booby, which she got from her mother. I want those candlesticks. Make sure, no matter what you do, even though you're clearing out that house, please do not throw out those candlesticks. Okay, no problem. I came a week later to the house to pick up whatever I needed to get while this guy was sorting everything out. I said to him, okay, I've come to pick up the candlesticks. Oh, no. He goes, what? He goes, I saw those candlesticks and I forgot totally about what you'd asked me to do. I'm sorry, I chucked out the candlesticks. You did what? He says, I chucked out the candlesticks. How could you? How could you chuck out those candlesticks? Do you know how much those candlesticks meant to me? Mommy brought them. She got them from Bubby, who brought them across from Europe, who got it from her mother. Do you know what those candlesticks are? He says, I'm so sorry. He goes, tough. If you have no respect for this, I'm out of here. And he says, I left. So he said, and that's why you're not talking to your brother for the last 55 years. He goes, yeah. He says, could you explain that a little bit more to me? He goes, sure. This guy threw out the candlesticks. He says, yeah, but were they very valuable candlesticks? He was so upset. He goes, no. They weren't valuable. I mean, this was from the old Haim, the Shtechel. They didn't have the silver candlesticks like we have them today. They were cheap. He goes, so what's the problem with them? So they were cheap. They're not that expensive. He goes, don't you realize it's a family heirloom? They were like family to me. Don't you realize that this is literally like my family? And he threw away this thing that was like family to me. I can't forgive him for that. So Rav Achi said, can I ask you one last question? He says, are you honestly telling me that for candlesticks that are like family, you threw away real family? And the penny dropped. He says, I watched the guy and the penny dropped. And his eyes filled with tears. And he said, excuse me, I have to go make a phone call. And he turned around and he left the share. What's his name now? Bailey. Bailey, cool. Okay. Right? That's, and that's a crazy story. It's a really crazy story when you think about it, because here is somebody that really, what a mistake. What an error. What a terrible thing to do. But you want to learn how to forgive. I think it's so important. The younger you are, the easier it is to forgive. As we get older, we get more and more stuck in our ways. How many 18-year-olds do you know that have fallen out with somebody, never to speak to them ever again? Not that many, right? How many 40-year-olds? More. How many 60-year-olds? Tons. Yeah? As they get older, they get more and more. They don't get less. Why is that? So there's this great vart. I'm sure lots of you saw this. This clip was viral like 2 years ago. Rabbi Jacobson, the famous Rabbi Jacobson, Lubavitch fellow, he was speaking before Slichas, and he said the following, that Tzemach Tzedek says that why is it that young people don't hold on to an argument and old people do hold on to an argument? What's the difference between younger people and older people? Why is it that young people don't hold on to it? And he says a very simple difference. Young people want to be happy. Children want to be happy. Adults want to be right. Yeah? So you have two kids that fight. But at the end of the day, all right, I'm not going to be happy in a fight with this guy the whole time. So they forgive each other. Adults? Oh, no. Not until I get that apology. Not until this person comes groveling to me and tells me he was wrong and I was right. I am not apologizing. Right? And that was the greatness of Aaron HaKohen. We speak about Aaron HaKohen as the big peacemaker. Do you know how Aaron HaKohen made peace? Any of you ever heard the Medrash? I'm sure all of you heard the Medrash. What did he do? But I get a new understanding. Aaron HaKohen, there were two people he heard that were in a fight, and he went to the first one and he said to him, listen, my dear friend, Ruvain, I know you fell out with Shimon, but I was speaking to Shimon, and Shimon was so upset, and he says, I'm so upset I fall out with Reuben. I didn't want to fall out with him. I'd love to apologize to him. I'm just so embarrassed to come to him and to apologize to him, but I'd really love to make peace with him. And then he went to Shimon, and he said to Shimon, do you know, I just spoke to Reuben recently, and you know what Reuben said to me? Reuben said to me, he's devastated because he fell out with you, and he didn't want to fall out with you, and he just doesn't know how to undo it, and now he's stuck. And when the two people met, they made peace, and that was, Shalom Meshava and Achva, etc., etc. People gone and... Do you know what the genius of Aaron HaKohen was in making peace? Why was Aaron HaKohen such a great peacemaker? Do you know why? Because Aaron HaKohen didn't walk over to the guy and said to him, listen, Alex, I know you're in a fight with somebody else. Come on, give in, be a man. That doesn't work. We don't want to do that. Do you know what he did? He walked over to one person and he said to me, the other side... they're really desperate to make peace with you. And he walked to the second side and he said, the first side, they're really desperate to make peace with you. And once that happened, that everybody, both sides are sort of saying to themselves, well, he wants to make peace with me, that's fine. Then I'm happy. If he's willing to apologize, I'm happy to accept his apology. The other side says, he wants to say I'm sorry to me. That's fine. That's great. And I'm willing to accept it. And then they made peace. Because Aaron HaKohen realized that he needed to take it that way around. He needed to tell one person that the other person's sorry. Because really, people just dig their heels in. People say, I am right. I am not willing to forgive. I'm not going to apologize to the other person. He's going to have to apologize to me. And you know what a pain it is to have anybody, I don't know how anybody here, I hope nobody here has enemies. But you know what a pain it is to have enemies for you and for other people? You know, for example, Ian, you made a chasna. Nobody else is here has made a chasna. We made a bar mitzvah. We didn't have a seating plan. But you made a chasna. When you make a chasna, you have to make a seating plan, right? Is that one of the most difficult things to ever do? What makes the seating plan? Oh, you've made 3 weddings. Sorry. Yeah. What makes the seating plan so difficult?
People not talking to each other.
That's exactly what it is. Because when I put the table together and I forget that Reuven and Shimon don't talk to each other, and I put them on the same table, there either could be fireworks, or they could come back to me and be upset with me. Ian, you know I don't talk to Reuven. How could you sit me on the same table with him? What's the big deal? It's just a chasna. Get over it. No, I don't talk to him, and you know I don't talk to him, and it was wrong of you to... And you have to rack your brain, and sometimes you have to ask other people, do you know who's in a fight? Yeah, it's crazy. Do you know who's in a fight? Because, like, you know, I need to know who's arguing and who's in a fight, because only the people that... only that's the way I can make sure that I'm not going to screw up the seating plan. Because otherwise you get... is it not very, very stressful?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And imagine you're walking down the street, and on the other side, you're going into Kiddush, and who's about to walk into the Kiddush with you? The guy that you don't talk to. So what do? It's a small Kiddush. It's a room this size, you know? It's a room this size. It's a Kiddush for a little girl. We're both going to have to be in this room. Forget it. I'm not going to the Kiddush. Why? I'm not going in a room this size with that guy. I mean, I might have to, you know, I'll bump into him while I'm saying L'chaim. Or maybe I'll put L'chaim on his tie. He'll learn how to, you know, not to mess with me. It's such a pain. You know, you have to cross the road all the time. You have to make sure you don't speak to his friends. His friends don't speak to your friends. It becomes like a whole thing. You know, sometimes within families, there are 2 family members that have an argument, and then everybody has to take sides, and the whole family gets ripped to shreds just because 2 people are having an argument. Whose side are you on? Are you on the left or are you on the right? I'm on the right. I don't talk to you. I'm on the left. You rip the whole family apart. But just because 2 people within the family having an argument, why don't you say, I don't take a side? But no, you now get schlepped in. You get dragged into other people's arguments. It's so unfair. It's unreal what goes on out there. And people just don't want to apologize. So let me tell you a story. I know this is very politically incorrect of me to do this, and it's very unprofessional of me to do this, but I'm going to tell you a story because the story is 7 years old, and the fellow is not in our community anymore, but this is a true story. This story happened to me, and I think there's a tremendous lesson to be learned from it. I'm going to maybe camouflage some of the details, but the basic story goes like this. I was rabbi for about 2 or 3 weeks in our shul. And what happened was there was a certain fellow whose wife needed surgery. And his wife was having surgery, and he spoke to me about it, and we said, Refuah Shleima, and we said, tell him for her. And she had surgery on, let's say it was Monday. On Tuesday morning, he came to shul, and there was somebody sitting next to him, and that fellow next to him, his mother-in-law, was very, very ill, who died the week after. And I went over to that fellow, and I said, how are you? How's your mother-in-law? Just want to know. End of story. End of that part. On Thursday, I met the fellow again in shul, and I went over, hello, whatever your name is. I just want to see how your wife is doing. You know, I hope she's feeling better. Does she want to visit? I'll be happy to visit her, whether it's in hospital. No, when she comes home. Fine, I'll visit her when she comes home, etc., etc. Anyway, a week later, or a week and a half later, I get a call from Clive Sayers. Clive Sayers was the president at the time, and he says to me, Rabbi, I'm like, yes, Clive. He goes, I have a letter for you. I said, okay. I said, what does it say? Oh, I can't tell you. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, don't call me up and tell me you have a letter for me and then tell me you can't tell me. He goes, no, you don't want to know what it says in this letter. I said, well, yes, now I do want to know what it says in this letter. He goes, well, it's not a very complimentary letter. I said, well, I got the letter anyway. Will you just read me the stupid letter? He goes, no, I'm not reading the letter. You have a copy of it on your tray because he wrote another letter for you. Go and find it. So I come into the office and I open up the copy of the letter, and the letter says the following. Dear Mr. President, so the letter was written to the president with a carbon copy sent to the rabbi. Okay? 3 weeks on the job. Dear Mr. President, I want to complain to you about the terrible care and pastoral way that our new rabbi has been dealing with my wife. My wife has had this very serious operation. The rabbi on Tuesday stood next to me speaking to another member of the congregation, asking him how his mother-in-law was, totally ignoring me and not asking me how I was doing and how my wife was doing. And then, not only that, he asked me on Thursday, but by Thursday it was too late. He had already shown that for 3 days he didn't really care. And I came home so dejected on that Tuesday that the rabbi hadn't even asked me how I was feeling. And I came home and my gardener was standing outside and he goes, "Hi, so-and-so. How's your wife?" He says, "Even the gardener cares more about my wife than the rabbi does." You know, true story. I'm not making this up. I couldn't make up these details here if I tried, but if you speak to other rabbanim, they've gotten similar letters. Even the gardener cares more about my wife. And then he starts adding in, "And by the way, I want you to know that sermons are rubbish. They're terrible. They're not interesting. They're not very good." And, you know, he mumbles the prayer for the queen and he just rushes through the prayer for the state. So he's probably not into the monarchy or he's not into the state either. And if you take my advice, Mr. President, I would tell you to get rid of this guy as soon as you can before he goes through his provisional period, before he goes through that, you know, the original period that you have, so that you can just get rid of him. This is my advice to you. Signed respectfully, so-and-so. Okay? So I took this letter, I read through it once, and it went straight in the shredder. Right? Now, that was the first thing you do with a letter. I've kept certain letters in my career. There are certain letters that I have inside my my drawer. Some very nice thank you letters, some very, very, meaningful letters. This letter went straight into the shredder. Straight in, which was great. It already gives you a good feeling. And then I was like, okay, what's next? I'm going to have to call him, I'm going to have to apologize. So I call up this guy and I say, I'd like to speak to your wife. I'd like to apologize. And the wife comes on the phone, and you'll see in a moment that this is just it's a crazy story. The wife comes on the phone, and I'm talking to her from my mobile, and I'm starting to say to her, "I'm really sorry, and I understand you had a big operation. Yes, and you didn't call, and you didn't visit, and it's so terrible. Yes, I'm sorry. And my desk phone went off. Right? So I have a phone next to me, that's the landline, and I'm talking on my mobile. And she says to me, "Stop that phone ringing." And I'm like, I said, "What?" "Stop that phone ringing." I said, "I'm really sorry, I'm a non-magician. We mentioned Britain Got Talent over here. That'd be a pretty good one. The phone's ringing, ding, stops. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. You're just going to have to wait for it to ring out." Hey, we had to wait for it to ring out. I said, "I'm really, really sorry. I want to come over. I want to apologize to you. Can I please come over? Can I apologize to you?" "Fine, okay, come over and make a time. I'm coming over to apologize." I called up my father. My father's been a rabbi for many years. Now he's been a rabbi even longer. But called my father. I said to him, "Daddy, I got this letter. What do I do with it?" And I hear this smile on the other end of the line. He says, "I told you not to become a rabbi." I'm like, "Okay, Daddy, stop being so helpful and try, maybe help me out with this one." He goes, "No, you'll manage this one. Don't worry about it." So I'm psyching myself up for this whole thing, and I'm making my way to. Oh, here you go. Thank you. Yeah. By the way, anybody live, if you do share this with your if you like it, if you share it, then other people will be able to see it. So please do like it and share it. So I'm about to leave the house, and my wife looks at me before I leave the house, and she says to me these following words. She says, "Just remember, you're the rabbi and they're the congregants. You have to keep that in your mind also. Just keep a certain balance in your head." I said, "Fine, all right." Left the house, drove to the house. I come out. I go inside to the house. He sits down with me. I start apologizing to him. Then his wife comes in, and they start telling me about the operation and how bad it was. And I start apologizing, and they start telling me how she's been here and she's been waiting and how bad it is. And then they got into all sorts of things because they had all sorts of gripes about the shul, about couches in the shul because they didn't like the seed that was in the shul. And we had this whole discussion about all sorts of different things. I was explaining this to them and that to them, and we're going back and forth. And at one point or another, the woman got really, really agitated, and she started screaming. And at that point, I said to myself, okay, I think we've reached rock bottom. And I looked at the two of them and I said, "I'm really, really sorry. At this point, I'm going to leave. I can see I've been here for now half an hour to 45 minutes. You're not willing to accept my apology. Please call me when you're willing to accept my apology, and I will come and I'll apologize. But I'm not going to sit there and let you scream at me." Because, the words of my wife are sort of echoing in the background. Don't let them. You're the rabbi. I'm like, okay, fine. So I got up, and they obviously weren't happy with me just walking out on them like that. I just took my coat. I said, "Thank you very much. Call me a different time." It's all right. Bailey's getting into the story. Yeah? So, does he wake you at night? You like having another kid? Yes. Worse. Sorry, Laura. I know, but okay, I'm not even going to say it. Right. Okay. So, I think to myself, okay, I walked out. For an entire year, I waited and I waited, no phone calls, no anything. There was no reaction whatsoever. And I was waiting for them to tell me they're ready to accept my apology. Nothing. And now it's Erev Rosh Hashanah. And Erev Rosh Hashanah, I decided I was going to, Paul, don't worry about it. It's really not a big deal. Yeah, it's okay. You know, it's Erev Rosh Hashanah, and I've just decided to, it's Erev Rosh Hashanah, and I've decided to bring Clive a bottle of wine. And I stop off outside Clive's house, and I couldn't get into his road because it was blocked. And I brought him a bottle of wine. I get back into my car, and next to me is another bottle of wine going to one of the rebbeim of my sons. And I look, and I realize I am actually right near the house of the person who was really upset with me. And I said to myself, here's your chance. God put you here. He put you here for a reason. This is your chance. And so I ripped off the card of the wine. It was only on with those rings of sellotape, and you just stick the card on. They came off very easily. And I knocked on, and he opens up the door. I was just praying. I said, God, please don't let her open up the door. He opens up the door. He's like halfway decent. With her, I don't stand a chance. He opened up the door, and I said to him, dear so-and-so, I'm really sorry we got off to a bad start. I want to apologize to you. I want to, thank you for coming to our minyan quite regularly and for everything that you do for the shul and being a member of council, etc., etc. Thank you very much. Here's this bottle of wine. I want to apologize to you. He said, thank you very much. Apology accepted. End of story. Or so I thought, right? 6 weeks later, I'm sitting and learning in Shara Mordechai, and I get a phone call. And I pick up the phone, and I hear on the other end of the line, it says to me, is this how you return my phone call? Like, pardon me? He goes, is this how you return my phone call? I said, then I realized who it was, because after the second time he said it, I actually recognized the voice. I said, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. He goes, I called the shul office this morning, and I've asked you for you to call me, and you didn't call me back. I said, I really don't know what you're talking about. He said, what do you mean? I said, I didn't receive any message that you called me. He says, well, I called and asked you to call you back. Well, I didn't receive the message. Oh, how convenient. I'm like, what's that supposed to mean? Do you mean? I'm like, okay, what do you want? I don't know what you want. He goes, I'm very upset with you, and I want to come and I want to meet with you. I'm like, very upset. We did this already once. It's like deja vu. Like we just finished 6 weeks ago. You're starting all over again. I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. Okay, fine. When do you want to meet? We made a date. We made a time for the meeting. I called up somebody. I called up 1 or 2 people. One of them, Rabbi Malcolm Herman, who shouted Refuah Shalema. I spoke to him about it. I spoke to 1 or 2 other people about it. They coached me through this. And they said, okay, And he came in and he sat down. And I say, well, explain to me what happened. I don't even know what happened. Please tell me what happened. He goes, I'll tell you exactly what happened. It's Erev Yom Kippur. And I'd just driven to shul. My wife's coming to shul for the first time since that operation. She used to love coming to shul. And it's the first time back since that operation. And she's making her way out of the car, and I'm trying to help her out of the car. And you slunk in to the parking space right next to us, ran out of your car, ran inside, and just totally ignored us. By the way, I did leave out. I called back Wendy from the show. I said, did so-and-so call me? She goes, oh my goodness. I forgot to tell you that he called for you. I'm like, please do me a favor. If he ever calls again, he is priority, okay? She was like, yeah, okay, we know, I'm sorry. And she was really good enough. She picked up the phone and she actually called him. She said, I'm sorry, it was my fault. I didn't pass on the message, which was really, really nice of Wendy. It was, kol hakavod to her that, she didn't have to do that. But she went and she did that and was really, really nice of her. And so now, this guy says to me, I'm coming out of the car with my wife. You ran inside to that shul. You just ignored me. How could you do such a thing? Just ignore me like that. And ignore my wife when it's the first time back in shul after so many months. So I said, I'm really, really sorry, but please understand, it was my first Yom Kippur in shul. I was davening Shachris and Mincha. I had 3 sermons to give. We had the Yom Kippur appeal, and there was Tefillah Zakah. There's a prayer that I like to say before we go into Yom Kippur, asking for forgiveness, etc., etc. There was so much going on that day. Please understand. It was a very busy day. And then I remembered what they said. Because the people had advised me, just apologize. Don't make excuses. Just apologize. I said, you know what? But you're right. With having said all of that, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I know you feel bad. I know you feel ignored. I didn't mean to ignore you. Please take my apology. Please accept my wholehearted apology. I didn't mean to do that to you. And he says, well, about this and that. And he told me a few other things. I said, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. And this went on for about 20 minutes. He told me what the problem was. I apologized. And by the end of that, he says, you know what? Okay, fine. No problem. I said, do you want me to call your wife? I'm happy to apologize. No, don't worry about it. It's fine. You've apologized. We're okay. We're just fine. I said, listen, and this is what I was feeling like, now you start getting cocky. I said, listen, anytime you have an issue, don't need to call anybody else. Call me straight. We'll speak about it. I'll come. We'll discuss it. If I need to apologize, I'll apologize to you. Just, let's be friends. Like, yeah, no problem. Thank you, Rabbi. And he left. And I cannot tell you, when he walked out of that office, I felt like such a winner. I don't know, have you ever had that feeling like, yes, there's like a real, fist pump kind of moment. This was a fist pump kind of moment. And do you know why? Because on the one hand, I had shown more humility than I'd ever shown to anybody else. I just sat there and took everything from him and said, you're right, I'm sorry. You're right, I'm sorry. But guess who won in the end of the day? I just wanted him off my back. And you know what? If he's upset and I'm able to say I'm sorry and he guts on my back and he feels better and I feel better, then I'm really the winner. The loser is the one that stays in the argument. The winner is the one that's able to extract himself out of it. And quite honestly, what did it cost me? I wasn't standing in front of thousands of people groveling on my knees. All that meant is I had to turn around to the guy and say, you know what? You're right. I'm really sorry. That's all you had to say. Whether you believe it or not. I mean, okay, it has to come across sincere or sincere-ish. But if you say, you're right, I'm really sorry. Is it so hard to say that? Is it such a difficult thing for us to turn around and just say, you are right and I am sorry? It doesn't cost you anything. It's not going to cost you your covet. It's not going to cost you in general your job. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. And you're going to not feel like a loser. You will end up feeling like a winner. That's the thing that's so upsetting. People can make peace. It's so easy sometimes to make peace. All we have to do is show that little bit of humility. Climb down from that tree and say, you know what? Unequivocally, I apologize. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And it just diffuses the entire situation. I remember I had a fellow that there were two guys in our school that were they're really nice guys, but they sometimes got up to no good. And one night they decided that they wanted to sit in the Rosh Yeshiva's private office and learn in that office. So they broke into his office and they were sitting with their feet up on his desk learning Gemara. And with that, the Rosh Yeshiva almost never came at night. With their luck, the door opens up and there's the Rosh Yeshiva. And they got suspended. They got suspended from school for the afternoon. I can't remember what it was. They got suspended from school. And we come home to our flat, and we had a flat that me and another 3 other guys, we shared a flat when we were staying in this high school. And I walk in and it smells like sick. It smelled disgusting. And I turned around to my friend and I said, Dove, these 2 guys have been here and they got drunk and one of them sicked up. I'm telling you. And he says, what are you talking about? You just walked in and it smells of sick. I mean, you're already making all sorts of allegations. They don't even live here. Why are you making allegations about other people? What are you talking about? I said, no, I'm telling you that's what happened. He says, be done on the kafskos. Come on, you have to give him benefit of that. Anyway, we opened up the fridge. Lo and behold, 2 huge bottles of beer. I think they were called 40s at the time. 40-ounce bottles of beer. One of them totally drained. One of them almost drained. And what had happened was exactly as I thought. They had come, I put it together correctly. They had actually come to our flat and they'd gotten drunk and one of them had gotten sick and he vomited all over somebody's bed, which was gross, but that's what happened. I guess they stripped it, they put on other sheets, they turned it around. I don't know what they did, but they found a way to clear it. It's very funny. We never told the other roommate, we never told him the story, and he came home, he laid down and he goes, what the heck's that smell in my bed? You're like, I don't know. It smells like somebody's been ill here. We just made this face like, who knows? I don't know. It's weird. Because it's very weird that my bed smells like that. I'm like, yeah, it really is weird that your bed smells like that. Went into my room and you burst out laughing. You're like, you come out, I don't know what it was, But that's what it was. So I got really angry. And I picked up the phone to this guy and I called him up and I said, Bensi, how could you? What are you doing? He goes, you're right. I said, no, but you're right. And that was it. Because how do you fight with a guy who says you're right? You ever try to fight with a guy that says you're right? You're an idiot. Yes, you're right. No, but you're an idiot. You're right. Oh, all right, fine. So I'm in agreement. That's it. That ends the whole discussion. Because once I say you're right, that ends the whole discussion. You can't go any further than that. How do you keep on fighting when somebody else says you're right? You can't. It's very, very hard. Unless you're like very, very adamant. No, I need to have a fight. I need to be angry with this guy. I said, buddy, he apologized to you. He's telling you you're right. So what are you fighting about? And that's the unbelievable thing. Once you say to somebody else, if you start having humility and just saying to somebody else, you know what, I made a mistake, you're right. Watch all these machlokes disappear. So easy for most of the things. Again, this is an oversimplification, but in 99% of the cases, that's all it would take. Sometimes it's about huge amounts of money, and sometimes it's about other things. And, sometimes there are going to be bigger things involved, and sometimes you won't be able to make peace. I understand, maybe. Even then, I don't think it's worth ripping a family to shreds, etc. about money. Find a way to find a compromise. Don't be so money grabbing one side or the other. Just find a way to find a compromise and remain as a family. But forgetting about money right now, okay? That's very often what people fight about. But a lot of the other things, covered. You didn't say good Shabbos to me. He didn't send me a card at my simcha. You didn't come to my simcha. You know what? Maybe you're upset. Maybe you even have a right to be upset. Just go apologize. The other guy, just go apologize. What are you keeping this fight going for? What for? What do you gain by having this fight other than agmas nefesh? Just nerves everywhere you go. Am I going to bump into the guy? Am I not going to bump into the guy? I have this guy that I don't get on with. People think I'm annoying because they can't sit me next to him at a simcha even though we're family. It's just not worth it. It's all just not worth it. And the younger you are, when you start learning to just take things easy and to be willing to be a little bit more humble and just to apologize, the easier time you'll have with it. The older you get, the less humble we become. Because as we get older, we all lose a little bit of that humility. We all become a little bit more set in our ways. And we all want to be right. Learn that it's not the most important thing in the world to be right. Learn that you are able to forgive other people. It's not so hard. Just say you're sorry or accept somebody else's apology. It's not hurting you. It's not going to cost you anything. It's going to be one of the most rewarding things in hindsight that you'll have ever done, and you won't feel a loser, you'll feel the winner. Do it for yourself. Do it for other people, and do it for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You want to, come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want you to forgive me. And God says, really? Do you forgive other people? No. I'm in arguments with everybody. I dig my heels in. So God says, and why shouldn't I dig my heels in with you? God almost treats us like we treat other people. So it's also worth hedging your bets that way. You want God to forgive you. You want to say to God, God, I know I did a lot of things wrong this year, but I want you to forgive me on Yom Kippur. And God says, do you forgive everybody else? If you say no, then God says, why should I forgive you? Why should I be forgiving when you don't know how to be forgiving to other people? But if you say, yes, I've forgiven other people, and even sometimes when I was right, I still forgave, or I still apologized, and I created shalom, then God says, you're willing to take that extra step. You're willing to go above and beyond what the norm is, and willing to take your honor and to put it to the side and make it secondary for peace and for forgiveness. I can take my honor and make it secondary as well and give you peace and forgiveness. And that's how we learn how to apologize. That's how we learn to make shalom, and that's how we merit a good year. I wish everybody here with you on Facebook. If you are with us, please, if you did enjoy the share, like it, share it so that other people can see it. All of you who've come, and thank you again, Paul, for arranging all these shurim. It's been really great this year to be able to get together, with a younger crowd to have this share. Mitzvah Shem, next year we'll look forward to many, many more shurim, both on Facebook and live with all you guys. Thank you very much. Wishing you all a Shana Tova.